Welcome to another edition of Conversations Different, the podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican about the interesting people and places of northern New Mexico. I'm Inez Russell Gomez, and this week we are discussing an anniversary, 60 years in Santa Fe for St. John's College. With us is President J. Walter Sterling, who took over this year. So we have an old college and a new president. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Inez. It's great to be here.
I think one of the things people say about Santa Fe that always makes me laugh is we need more higher education. And they forget that we have St. John's College, Institute of American Indian Arts, Santa Fe Community College, UNM, Highlands. And here we are with all these wonderful opportunities, and people forget they're there. So talk about St. John's and why it's here.
Well, just from a historical point of view, we have a sister campus, you could call it our mother campus in Annapolis, Maryland. That's the third oldest college in the country, dates back to 1696. In 1937, it put into place, and maybe we'll talk more about this later, this great books program and a very unique model of liberal arts education that we're known for. But in the 60s, we were looking to expand, and the college, we went west, and there's a whole complicated origin story there. It includes this newspaper, but we landed on Santa Fe, and it's been a wonderful home for us ever since. And again, we could say more about how that happened. But I think what it means for us to be here is that as a national liberal arts college, we have these two wonderful campuses, and we're in one of the most special, culturally rich, historically rich, and beautiful cities in the country here in northern New Mexico. And it gives us a kind of profile and opportunity to have a home in the West in this special place. And for Santa Fe, it means you have a national liberal arts college here in that constellation of higher education. We're in a region where really state universities, land-grant universities are the dominant model. But to have a special national liberal arts college like St. John's draw students from all over the country, all over the world into Santa Fe every year, draw the faculty that we draw here. We believe it's one of the crown jewels of both Santa Fe and New Mexico higher education. But you're right, it's underappreciated. In some ways, Santa Fe isn't viewed as a college town.
No, and it really, you could say, is.
Yeah. Because
a lot of the people who attend the college then stay here.
And that matters a great deal to us, partly because we are a national liberal arts college. Our students mostly come from all over, but we're ever more committed to recruiting students from New Mexico and giving our students internship opportunities here and having our alumni stay here, and they do. And again, we can get into more details on that, but we think it's important for the state to have this range of options and opportunities, and for Santa Fe, which is so known for art, culture, history, and for various kinds of cultural institutions that are here. We'd like also to be known as a great place to go to college, an ever better place to go to college, and a great place for New Mexicans to stay.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting points in today's higher education world is we keep discussing about the job of colleges is to train the future workforce. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't be, I think, more antithetical to what the job of St. John's or a liberal arts college is, which is to train thought and research and the ability to reason. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, those skills are going to be great at whatever job you take. But you're not training someone to go, work in an office and type every day or something.
Not in the direct way that that we normally think about that. I mean, my own view is we should view it as both and.
Yes.
So St. John's is viewed as a sort of gold standard for liberal education, liberal arts education, rooted in the classics. Our students study all different disciplines, but they do a completely integrated liberal arts curriculum. They won't choose majors. They're all going to study languages, mathematics, laboratory science, music. They're all going to read classics of philosophy, literature, social sciences from classical antiquity to the present. Clearly, there's a commitment to thinking for oneself, developing all your human faculties, a broad curiosity, looking for the interconnections, all those things that the liberal arts can do. But our students are going to do very well in their careers. And when I talk about this, sometimes I like to borrow a vision that all of higher education today and always is aiming at three things: the pursuit of truth, you could say. It would be a very pure version of the liberal arts, maybe also of the research ideal. But the pursuit of truth, the cultivation of your intellectual faculties, and career preparation and preparation for citizenship. And I think we do all institutions a disservice when we pose it as a dilemma. You've got to pick one versus the other. Different institutions do have different emphases in relation to this, but I think all of them, whether it's a community college, large state university, small liberal arts college, or a place as unique as St. John's, we're all trying to do all three of those things. And it's important that there's the whole range of opportunities. But we definitely are trying to make the foundation, right, that broad, deep liberal arts education.
Is it fun to work in a profession that, I'm a journalist, I'm an enemy of the people, so I have been there. But now you're a college professor, and now college professors and presidents and universities are enemies because, you're trying to wokeize the students of America. How is that kind of atmosphere to be in at this point?
Well, it's a fascinating and troubled time. I mean, one measure of what you're talking about is in various longitudinal polling, we've seen trust and confidence in higher education go down sharply, all ages, all political persuasions. And I don't know anyone who can think that's a good thing, that that the future will get better if we lose more and more faith in higher education. And that loss of faith has to do with questions about practicality, affordability, politicization, elites, reproducing elites. There are a range of critiques coming from maybe different parts of the political spectrum that flow into it. But overall, it's a part of our society, like some others, that's under duress from the standpoint of public trust. My own view is that's not a reason to back away from it. That should strengthen our sense of calling as educators, because we need to become strong where we're viewed as weak. And my view is a place like St. John's is particularly strong in response to the criticism you brought up. We do not sort politically. We welcome what's often these days called viewpoint diversity. We're all about dialogue across difference, learning together, shared inquiry. Our classroom is built that way. Our community is extremely diverse politically, socioeconomically. I think that's what we should be aspiring to everywhere. And we sort of have to demonstrate that what we really believe in is that kind of shared inquiry and learning, and not trying to reproduce certain ideologies, certain political persuasions. I don't care whether you're a Republican and Democrat. I want our community to be as diverse as America. But I want you to go through this education to become a more reflective, thoughtful, articulate, empathetic Republican or Democrat, religious believer or atheist. We need all those people around the table, and we're really committed to that. And I think many educators are, but they're losing the battle of public trust. And obviously we have very visible displays of where that's breaking down on college campuses. So I think there needs to be a kind of renewed social contract coming from the side of higher education towards society, where we say we're committed to winning back your trust on all these fronts: affordability and accessibility, depoliticization, and so on.
Yeah. It's, I think, hard to win trust when sometimes the trust is stolen by false claims that keep getting repeated. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and be right back.
Are you dreaming of a home of your own in Santa Fe, but feel like your finances aren't where they need to be? HomeWise is here to help. We offer free financial coaching and classes in English and Spanish that will help you proactively manage your money and get you qualified for the best mortgage loan possible. Contact us today to register for an in-person or online class, or to speak with a home purchase advisor who you can work with one-on-one to help you increase your savings, reduce your debt, and improve your credit score. Call 505-983-9473 or visit us at homewise.org. Equal Housing Lender. NMLS number 188231.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking about St. John's in Santa Fe with its president. Let's talk about the way St. John's teaches and what makes it so special, going back to the decision to adopt the Great Books.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So as I mentioned before, that was in the 30s in Annapolis. It was part of a wider national movement that included the University of Chicago, Columbia, University of Virginia, and some other places. And broadly speaking, it was a reaction against over-specialization on the research university model and hyper-vocationalization of higher education. The idea
you don't choose a major.
That's right.
I couldn't go study journalism there.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Though we have many graduates who go into journalism.
Yes, one of my best reporters ever.
Yeah. So the antidote was viewed at that time as, let's anchor the education in a seminar-style conversations rooted in the classics, right. Great books. We'll do a kind of chronological sequence, very diverse readings. And will require students to do a full range of liberal arts and sciences. There's a very rigorous mathematics and natural science component to what we do. And there's a music class. So in some ways, it's a very traditional vision of liberal arts education. But also, our faculty are not departmentalized. We're all called tutors at St. John's. We all teach across disciplines, and we lead a student-driven conversational classroom in all subjects, very small classes.
And my impression is that when you're at St. John's and they say, read this book, mm-hmm. when you go in, you can't hide in the back with your head down and not have some sort of opinion about it or some sort of discussion. It's very hard to hide that you, in fact, went out and got drunk the night before and did not read the book.
We might not figure all of that out in one class,
right.
but the whole model is participatory, student-driven. Really, every student's expected to bring their questions and contributions to every class, mm-hmm. every day. We view it as learning together. We put enormous emphasis on asking questions, on exploration. We're not expecting students to be masters of this very demanding material, but we do expect you to engage, and that's what our students want to do. They come because they're curious and they want to think for themselves about these things.
I'm thinking you were a tutor before you became
mm-hmm.
the president. You've taught, let's say, I don't know what your favorite thing to teach is, but let's say you've taught it 1,000,000 times. How do you learn something new every time and not get bored?
Well, these are things where there's always more to learn. I mean,
mm-hmm.
First of all, you get stretched because you're being asked to do so many different things, outside of your expertise. So there's a lot of learning that happens in a kind of drinking from the fire hose way. But when you're going back over things, which we do also, you're not going to run out of new questions, new insights, new areas to explore in Plato's Republic or in Kant's Critique of Pure Reason or in Einstein's 1905 paper on special relativity, which every student's going to work through equation by equation. There's always more to find there. And the other thing about it is in a way, we're studying the material. In another way, we're learning from each other and sharing our ideas with each other and then taking those into our own thinking, whether we're faculty or students. So every discussion is going to be different with a different group when it's this spontaneous and when it's this open to what the group is going to do together.
Now, one of the, not even criticisms, but just one of the observations about, studying the great books of Western mm-hmm. civilization, that is very past focused. Mm-hmm. Many of the writers of the past, happen to be dead white men. Mm-hmm. And civilization obviously continues to progress. Mm-hmm. How do you keep it not necessarily current, but expand the perspective so that maybe you have authors from Africa, South America, mm-hmm. People from the United States who didn't grow up, reading the Romans or the Greeks. So how does that work so that people are always challenging themselves with new ideas?
Right. So great set of challenges here, and it's one that recurs. And there's not one way in which we all think about it at St. John's. I think it's very important to say, just in terms of the curriculum itself, the view is not that we've somehow fenced off everything worth studying. It's
Right.
that there's a foundational character to working your way through the history of ideas that prepares you to better understand the diversity that emerges, especially right in the 20th, 21st century, all the voices that come into the conversation, but voices that in a certain way are responding to what went before. So this is meant to be foundational and to prepare you for that kind of exploration, not to exhaust what's worth reading. In terms of how those other things come in, on the one hand, there are always faculty and student study groups outside of the prescribed curriculum. It's a huge part of the culture of the place. And there'll be a study group on contemporary women authors. There'll be a study group on African literature. There'll be a study group on Native American authors. There'll be reading groups on all kinds of things. There are several electives in the junior and senior year that we call preceptorials, and then a senior essay where students can pick from a range of things. And those often go into these areas. They don't have to. They can sometimes be going back to things within the program. But those are places where students have freedom to explore, and faculty do as well. So it happens, you might say, around the edges and constantly that we're exploring those things. But the claim of the college is going to be, and I would say of all the sort of great books and core text programs out there, that there's something foundational about this tradition for us as moderns. And then all this diversity comes in, and we want to be able to understand that against the backdrop.
And it makes sense. It's just that the foundation takes up so much time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have necessarily, when you get to like the last month of your senior year to get the diversity, that doesn't exactly weigh it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's not, look, there are versions of the critique that,
Right.
I could talk all day, and
Like
people
how
are going to
many
say they're
female
not,
authors do you have
they're
in
not,
your books?
they're not going to be persuaded. But,
Right.
I like to give the example of, say, Toni Morrison. That's going to be a very sustained engagement for our students at the end of the senior year, because that's how we do things chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
But, those seniors will have read Faulkner and Virginia Woolf that Toni Morrison wrote her master's thesis on, and before that they'll have read Homer, Dante, Dostoevsky, Jane Austen, et cetera, et cetera. And so there is a way in which those authors that we want to get to, that we're much more likely to spend our life reading, frankly, will be so much more enriched by having studied what they studied. And so, again, this can go on and on and on. It is a trade-off. It's a kind of sacrifice to delay or, put around the sides some of the more contemporary and diverse things that one wants to get to. But boy, does it deepen what you can do with those things if you allow yourself
You're understanding the roots.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we'll be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
Thanks, Inez. This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. We hope you're enjoying this episode of Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez. Great local content is only possible with a talented staff dedicated to bringing you the best local content possible. For that staff to do its work, we need your support by subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. If you're already a subscriber, thank you. And if not, there's never been a better time to subscribe. In addition to our home-delivered newspaper that comes with full digital access, we also provide digital-only subscriptions for SantaFeNewMexican.com. We'll also be releasing more online-only audio and video programming moving forward. The Santa Fe New Mexican has been here for nearly 175 years, and we want to continue being your source for local news and information. Visit us at SantaFeNewMexican.com/subscribe or call us at 505-986-3010. Thank you.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking to St. John's College President Sterling. And one of the things that you wrote in My View for us a few weeks ago that was published, and I think it was really exciting for New Mexico residents. There's a real intent on the part of the college to be a closer neighbor to people in Santa Fe, to people in New Mexico. And that means someone who wants a top-notch liberal arts education at one of really the more famous schools, not just in the country, but probably the world, at teaching this way. You could walk to St. John's or, go live in a dorm and go there, but it's going to be easier for New Mexico students to attend.
Absolutely. And I would say that's one area very important to us where we're doing better than ever. And it's been the result of concerted efforts in recent years. We recruit much more intentionally in the state than we did before. About 15% of our incoming classes are now New Mexican residents. And that might sound low, and we're a small place, but it's the highest it's been. We provide additional financial aid to residents of New Mexico. Our current tuition sticker price is $39,000, but we bring that down to $25,000 with a $14,000 scholarship for New Mexico residents right off the top. We also do a Pell match for Pell eligible students. And one of the things that I said in that piece is that when you get down to household incomes of $50,000 or below, third-party college scorecard federal data shows that the cost of attendance at St. John's is going to be almost the same as it will be at UNM because of the need-based aid, the Pell match, and so on. So we also have a Southwest scholars program where we partner with certain schools and provide additional scholarship aid to students coming from those programs. And they also have additional access to our Summer Academy for high school students, which has also been a very important program for recruiting high school students to St. John's, but also giving them an experience of this wherever they go on to college. And so we're very happy with the results we've seen. We intend to go further in that direction. It's partly just trying to be a good neighbor. It's partly believing that more students, if they realized how affordable it is and if they realize the kind of career support and career preparation they're going to get, that they would consider and choose to stay home here and get this kind of education here.
Because one of the things, if you go to a school like St. John's, is you may be in Santa Fe, but everyone there is not all of them are from somewhere else, but a lot of them are, and they've seen lots of different things. So it's like going away to some degree.
It's a wonderful, wonderful point. We're small. We have about 400 undergraduates, about 100 master's students. But at any given time, we have students from almost every state in the country. And a dozen or so countries abroad. We have a large international student population. And because this is such an intentional choice, we end up with students from all over. Our students can go back and forth from this campus to the Annapolis campus. Probably 20% or fewer end up doing that in each direction, but that creates its own diversity. So you really end up with an amazing campus community that I think is one of the gifts that we give to Santa Fe as well. These students become part of the city for their 4 years here and really enrich the civic life here.
Yeah, we had a reporter named Greg Topo who had gone to St. John's and then became a teacher through one of the first internship programs. And for some reason, he decided he wanted to be a journalist. So he started doing freelance articles, and we figured out that he was, a great reporter. So we hired him. He got out of teaching, but he kept that really curious mind. Mm-hmm. And he went from the New Mexican to being the national reporter for the Associated Press on education, because he had the ability to grow by leaps and bounds. And it was a real interesting, as his editor, watching how his mind worked. Mm-hmm. And the way he questioned and the reasoning of how he approached his stories. And you could tell that it was affected by what he learned in college.
Well, it's, I've for years as a member of the faculty, and I myself am a graduate of the college, I've scanned and watched our alumni all over do extraordinary things in so many areas. What's been exciting for me as I look at it with fresh eyes as the new president is really focusing on our state and realizing, and I touched on this in the article too, that we have more Johnnies per capita in New Mexico than we do in any other state in the country. We have about the same number, about 1,700 alumni in New Mexico and in Maryland and in California. But the denominator of the population of the state is so much lower in New Mexico.
So, right.
Now I'm scanning and just realizing how many alumni we have in nonprofit leadership, in public service, broadly in government. in education, which is really where maybe as much of as a third of our graduates go into either K through 12 or higher education. We produce a very large number of PhDs, but most of our folks in education are in K through 12. I have 2 teenage sons that have gone through Santa Fe public schools, now in private school, and without any planning on our part, they keep running in to Johnny teachers, my idiom from the college, but teachers in the public schools, private schools here, and throughout the state, that's true. So, and I think that fundamental curiosity, articulateness, challenging of assumptions, and exploration, you see it in the temperament that our graduates bring to whatever careers they pursue.
What I think would be wonderful for a child in the classroom is that you have a teacher who's so excited about learning, which you think every teacher needs to be, but there's such an emphasis on testing and measurements, which obviously you need to measure, but somehow the joy gets squished. And people who are still like doing study groups on top of all the reading they have to do in class to discuss things love to learn.
Absolutely. I sometimes think that that's really what we specialize in is learning. And it can sound so obvious and trivial, but it's not at all because you can focus on so many other things. I'm inclined to think my 2 sons had one Johnny as a math teacher in 7th and 8th grade in the Santa Fe public schools, and he was fantastic. And I sometimes like to venture, just as a guest, that the best math teacher they'll ever have at any level was this 7th, 8th grade middle school math teacher, because he was so attuned to how students learn. It doesn't have to do with being a scholar of mathematics, right. And they could go on and become engineers, but they might never have a better teacher because of how he curated what it meant for them to be studying that material. And I think that's a real gift of the kind of education we pursue. And I love seeing it throughout this state in the educational system when I become aware of where our folks are and what they're doing.
No, definitely. I think the idea, I know in college, I had so many people say, is this going to be on the test? Or why do I need this for my job to be? And it was like, maybe sometimes you just need to learn something because it could come in handy later and you don't know, or maybe you're a better person because you know these things. And just the joy of learning, to emphasize that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You're also a community neighbor, not just because you have students, but the professors, the tutors live and work in Santa Fe. You graduate, you stay. How is the college working now to remind everybody that you're there and you're a partner in this town that we all love?
Right. So, part of what I'm trying to do is just elevate the story, right? We are a large employer here, about 180 employees, roughly 60 faculty, tenure track, almost all PhDs that come here. It's a real asset to the community. Many of them will spend their whole careers here, raise their families here, et cetera. 120 staff, large economic footprint, large investment we're making in infrastructure. We just recently turned on, a solar installation that's providing 100% of the electricity that we need to run our campus. It's a huge moment for us. We're making a once-in-a-generation investment in our central building, our student center, which is also really our community center. It includes our great hall, our coffee shop, our bookstore, all the spaces that we use for community programming. So, partly telling that story better and making sure people realize it. But moving forward, I said before, what we're doing with students now, New Mexico residents coming in, the way we're partnering for internships and careers coming out, that's what we're doing better than ever. What we haven't been doing better than ever for various reasons, the pandemic being a major one, is having community programming that really brings the neighborhood onto our campus, and also partnering with other organizations.
Everyone misses Music on the Hill,
and that's sort of the poster child for this challenge. So it's going to be work in progress. It's going to take time, partly because we're in an 18-month project there with our student center, on the far side of which we'll have the best space, a refreshed and expanded space for most of the programming we do. But there are reasons why we needed to concentrate on our core mission to get through the pandemic and also to get through some years of financial stressors. And those are real still. We just completed a very successful campaign, but we still have to run a very lean college, and we stay very committed to our undergraduate and graduate degree programs. But as we move forward, we intend to look for as many opportunities as possible to bring the community back to campus. And I'm completely committed to that. I think it's good for everyone. It's a win-win-win in every way. It benefits our students, benefits our campus community, and it benefits the city. We want to be more connected. I'd say it's been a challenge for St. John's from its founding because of its unique character.
Right, it's on the hill.
Right, it's on where it's located, and metaphorically, there's something arguably kind of self-contained about the project, but we've worked against that again and again with some success, and I think the next chapter is one where we have to succeed on that front. So I see all kinds of opportunities to expand our arts, music, theater, programming. I see all kinds of opportunities to partner with other cultural, educational, think tank institutions in town to do joint programming. I see all kinds of opportunities for St. John's to convene groups, and we've done some of this over the years.
I remember.
But the last few years, everybody's
all been
been a
in
little
the survival
shut down,
mode,
right?
you know.
So when I went through the search, the thing that the staff especially cared most about is there a way we can connect, reconnect, connect better, and I feel that way. So stay tuned, I guess is what I would say. But also, I want to tell our story better because I think we have a lot to be proud of, and I want the city to be proud of us with what we're doing right now and what we've done to this point. But I'm really excited about new opportunities when we get to the far side of this student center renewal.
Right, get the construction done and be planning for new things in the future that will kind of connect the town and the gown.
Absolutely. I'd also like to highlight that we usually talk about our undergraduate program, but we've got these two master's programs. They are both available online now in ways that was not the case before. It was part of the lemonade, like a lot of folks had to. But those programs work very well in that environment. And we also have more students doing those programs part-time. So I would just encourage our local community to be fully aware, either because you might be interested or you might know people, fully aware of our two master's programs in person and low residency, we say. And also our classics seminars that are for community lifelong learning programs. We have a large summer program called Summer Classics, but now we do a year of classics. We do winter classics online. These are non-degree great book seminars, including a lot of contemporary things. Okay. And then the third thing I'd highlight is our Summer Academy for high school students. For several weeks in the summer, we bring about 150 high school students from all over the country. But again, a great opportunity for local students and students in the state to spend a week doing these curated, immersive programs on campus where you're going to do St. John's style education, but you're also going to get up into the mountains. You're going to go to a museum. You're going to do a lot of really fun and interesting things around that. And a fraction of those students will enroll as freshmen, but the majority won't, but they're going to get a great experience, and they're going to get some college guidance counseling and have some reflection about what it would mean to try to incorporate some of this into your journey. So.
And those are often people that come back at 30 and say, I've never forgotten Santa Fe, and they move here.
Absolutely.
That's spreading the word of what a great place it is to be and live here.
It's an extraordinary place, isn't it? Where we get up every day feeling so blessed to be here, the natural beauty and the distinctive character of the city that we feel like we've been on a 60-year journey with.
Maybe St. John's can convene a seminar on what to do about the obelisk using the Socratic method to discuss it.
as depoliticized as we are, I don't know if we can roll that out. And,
it's not partisan, though. See, it's just contemporary, solving contemporary big issues.
Yeah. Well, these are very challenging issues, and they do test our ability to have respectful civil dialogue where we can move forward. I'll tell you the New Mexican devoted an issue to the founding of the campus back on October 11th, 1964. Basically, October 9th to 11th was the founding weekend. And the dean at that time was saying, serious dialogue across difference is what we need now more than ever. The only alternative is going to be a regression to political violence. And you read these sentences from 60 years ago
he was
and realize,
right.
and it was 1 year after,
Yeah.
less than a year after Kennedy was assassinated, and
right before the Vietnam War protests went nutty.
And
so
you just realize, I mean, it's part of the enduring value of this kind of education, but really what we want at all educational institutions, we've got to be part of the remedy for that, not part of the problem. And I just think that should give us a very powerful sense of calling. Even if that's not what 18-year-olds are thinking about when they're coming, that's what we need education to be: serious dialogue, serious inquiry that's respectful and civil, where we don't have to agree at the beginning, we don't have to agree at the end, but we end up learning how to do that.
And also where you realize that sometimes your position loses.
Right.
And how to be a good loser and, get ready for the next engagement.
Being self-critical is at the heart of this. Having epistemic humility, deep humility, even if you have convictions and confidence in them, you've got to understand how complicated these things are and the range of opinions we're going to end up having about them inevitably.
Yeah, that is a great point. And on that note, this has been another Conversations Different, and we'll be back next week.